All right, so episode 4 of our quarter of talking about media in this season, and we'll be discussing TV shows and branching off into that area of media.
Yes, today is the final episode of our media mini-series we're doing here. And yeah, we're just finishing things off with TV series. I think that's a lot of talking points we got there.
Yeah, lovely. So we'll just go ahead and, discuss all the critically acclaimed shows of interest, anything that just stood out for you and me over the years, man. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road. My name is Llewellyn Fisser.
My name is Brendan Llewellyn, and you are listening to Finding Boredom.
So we're talking about TV shows this week, and just putting it out there, man. Like, what's something you've recently watched, or like, what's a TV show that's just on your to watch list at the moment?
On my to watch list, I'd say there are a couple of things. We primarily these days, I've been watching a lot of anime again, which I haven't in a while. Not just watching some 90s shows, actually, which I've never got to experience when I was a child, which are like just classics like Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is something I'm particularly watching now. And I've got Yu Yu Hakusho on my list as well on Netflix. Just, the OG shows, man. I just want to see what that type of media was like in those times. But specifically in normal series, I'd really like to continue with Better Call Saul, because I was quite a big fan of Breaking Bad. So I'd very much like to continue watching that. That is definitely on my Netflix watch list. But yeah, man, what about you? Anything interesting you've watched of late, or something you've been wanting to watch on your watch list?
Well, yeah, like just to add to what you just said, like I've definitely got Better Call Saul on my watch list because, like, yeah, I finished Breaking Bad, and after Breaking Bad, I saw there's a spin-off series called Better Call Saul, which I didn't know about. So yeah, I followed Better Call Saul like back to front, man. Like I really enjoyed watching it. And then I saw that, yeah, they've got a new season coming out on the 19th of April. And we have a streaming service here in Australia called Stan. I'm just going to go ahead and create like a free 30-day trial just to watch Saul. No intentions of sticking around for the remainder of it. But yeah, like I guess on my most recent to watch list, I've watched Superstore, a lot of Superstore. I absolutely loved it. But the main reason why, so you've watched it as well, you were going to say?
Yes, I watched Superstore as well. Very much loved it. Love sitcoms. In fact, I think the final season is available now. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. So it's on there at the moment. I just saw the other day it came out, and yeah, it's pretty much smack bang pandemic. Like they're like, oh no, we're in pandemic. This is what's like affecting the retail game, like, which I think is amazing because the retail game would have 100% been affected by the pandemic. But the reason why I watched it's because one of the main characters, Ben Feldman, who plays Jonah, he came from Mad Men, actually. So in Mad Men, he worked at the firm, the marketing firm, and he played his role quite well. But he played as a Jewish character. So just because he moved over to Superstore, I followed with him. Otherwise, yeah, I dare say the most recent thing I've watched as well was a cartoon. It's called it's girly as hell. It's called Hilda. It's on Netflix, and I think the main theme song is written by Grimes, Elon Musk's ex-wife, and it's just about this girl who lives in a modern medieval sort of world, and it's all magic and mystical stuff. It's a bit like regular show meets Netflix. It's really cool, man. Well, in that case, was there ever like a time where you followed an actor to another, from another TV show to another TV show? Like just because that one actor is in a TV show from another show you liked, you watched the whole thing?
For me, I definitely say it's not. I wouldn't particularly like following actors to different series. I like indulge in it, but for me, I particularly like anthology series, which, for example, one of my favorite definitely has to be American Horror Story, which is the same sort of premise, but like it's a different location, the same actors, but they play a different role. I, for one, like that much more and jumping into something new, because like for me, American Horror Story is definitely, if not my favorite, one of the most favorite series I've ever watched. And I particularly like Evan Peters quite a lot in there, and he's quite an actor, which is very talented. And in terms of myself being an actor as well, why I like things like anthology series is you really get to see what the actors are truly capable of, their variety they can show in roles. But if you're talking about straight up just an actor following them, I think a couple of years back when I was much younger, for now I often watch a lot of reruns of 2.5 Men at the moment. I think I've rewatched it again over 2 times now. I was quite a big fan of Charlie Sheen back in the day, and I still am, despite so many controversies. I think definitely when he went over to anger management, that is something as well I enjoyed watching, but never could really reach the heights for me of, well, 2.5 Men. But yeah, man, talking about sitcoms, and we talked about Superstore and 2.5 Men just now. How often do you watch sitcoms? Is it something you find that you're quite a big fan of?
I don't mind. I like sitcoms a lot more nowadays. Like I never used to be. We grew up with Disney Channel sitcoms, man. So we had like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Wizards of Waverly Place. Like they were really low budget, not that well done sitcoms, even though they were both really famous sitcoms. I think the most recent sitcom that I would have finished was How I Met Your Mother, and that was a few years ago. Since then, I haven't really picked up on a sitcom. Like one sitcom I really want to actually get a hold of and watch is Married with Children. The main character he's this suburban dad, and he's always just saying, 2 touchdowns, 1 game. Like that's the biggest peak of his life. But no, I like to watch TV shows that have really strong leads. So you have male and female leads, but these really philanthropic sort of characters, like big example is Peaky Blinders. We have these men, gangs in suits, just walking up to a scene, badass walk scenes, I should say. You have Suits, the TV show. Once again, more people all dressed up in suits and what have you. I just mentioned Mad Men. So it's another day in Sterling Cooper in New York and Mad Men, and they're just all in suits. They're all smoking and drinking like it's normal every day at work. Like that sort of stuff I enjoy watching, man. But if there's one TV show that like might surprise most people that I really enjoyed, was Hannibal. So I find Mads Mikkelsen, who
so good.
I never knew Mads Mikkelsen before Hannibal. I watched Casino Royale when I was a kid with my family, with James Bond as Daniel Craig. And I never realized Mads Mikkelsen was the bad guy in that movie. And now Mads Mikkelsen is in the Fantastic Beasts movie, and he played in a movie called Chaos Walking with Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, and he just played an outstanding Hannibal Lecter. And because of that TV show, we spoke about books in the previous episode. Because of that TV show, now I actually want to buy all the books that the author wrote about Hannibal Lecter, like the series, like Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Like, I really want to read those books because of it. My reason in saying that is because we spoke about how a DVD adaptation of a movie actually ruins the story, whereas the TV show actually was really good. If the TV show is worse than the book, then I can't imagine how great the books are going to be. So how about you? Like, what's an unexpected TV show or series that just like blew your mind, that makes you a total weeb? Like, you want to go and buy all the content, you want to get all the backstories, you want to watch all the other movies that the actor is in or the actress is in.
Well, I must say, on the topic of it, like Hannibal, like you said, was one of the series that like really surprised me. Like Mads Mikkelsen is just like one of those actors, he said, one of those larger than life characters. And I think specifically the first two seasons of Hannibal was a series for me, which like I was on the edge of my seat. I was there binge watching every episode. And I felt like it fell a bit off in plot wise by season 3. I don't know if you could agree with me, but I never really completed season 3. But in terms of a series, I must say, which I am a huge fan of, like I just want backstories. I want, merchandise of Stranger Things. I absolutely love. It's a worldwide phenomenon. I think now season 4 is now coming out soon. I specifically remember collecting anything from Funko Pops to T-shirts to just anything. Like I was demagogue and crazy for Stranger Things. Like when the series premieres on Netflix each season, I'm right there watching it, indulging it. It's just for me one of the best series because I'm quite a geek. I watch a lot of anime. I'm a weeb as well. I play video games. So for me, Stranger Things is just a perfect balance, of sci-fi meets comedy meets action. It's just like everything I could possibly want in a show, I have in Stranger Things. But is there a series for you, Llewellyn, maybe like you've watched that you were perhaps a fan of for years that like ended maybe in like the past year or so that you were quite sad? And what did you think like of the final season?
Yeah, man. Like the all-time up there TV show for me is hands down Suits. So it's also the first TV show that I really watched. So like when I was never really into TV shows as a kid. We didn't have streaming services. But in this case, like, yeah, I moved to Australia and watched Suits for the first time, and Harvey Specter, he just spoke to me, man. Like he had these lines where, he would just say something like, if you're backed up against a wall, you tear the damn thing down. Like I have this Harvey Specter poster hanging above my bed.
Yeah.
That says the only time that success comes before work is in the dictionary. And I'm just like, yeah, this man's just loaded with quotes. And yeah, I had a deep connection to Suits, man. Like we spoke about music at the start of the season. I was watching Suits and they had like 3 or 4 songs per episode sometimes. And I would Shazam every song and put it on my playlist and listen to it over and over and over again. The theme song, Greenback Boogie, just stuck with me, man. Like I got into so many bands because of Suits. Cold War Kids was one of them. They had the Heavy, Alabama Shakes, like all these huge bands I became a fan of because of Suits. And yeah, they have 9 seasons, and the 9th season ended in 2019. And I only watched the finale this year because I couldn't bring myself to say goodbye. And I was watching it with my girlfriend. We're both big fans of the TV show. We always had this cringe thing. We were like, oh, I'm Harvey and she's Donna. It was just natural. Yeah, it was weird. But that being said, yeah, we watched the final episode, and I won't give spoilers, but yeah, it was a good send off for the show. And now my life is empty because of that. But I heard apparently there's a spin-off TV show called Pearson, which is about one of the former managing partners, Jessica Pearson, where she's in Chicago. So I'll have to follow up on that and see if it's a thing. But yeah, man. Otherwise, like, how do you feel, our perception of TV shows and this golden age of content we're in? How do you reckon that's come along in the last 50 years?
I definitely think there has been an increase in shows in general, not even the last 50 years, but I imagine the last 20 years. I think there's so much more TV series and films out there that I think we had a very limited amount of film and series a couple of years back. You know, you had your mainstream movies and you had these that were not so mainstream. Now I find like you can get mainstream quality films on any topic or genre you find it interesting. If you like sci-fi, you got a new sci-fi movie there, like more than a dozen to pick from with high-profile actors. So I think we're now in a golden age, as you said, of TV, which we can truly indulge ourselves in endlessly in hours and hours. I mean, there's so many subscription services and so many of them have so much original films and series. I think even if you would continue watching TV continuously for weeks, you'd still find something new you didn't know about. And I absolutely love that, you know. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to watch series, but just to know I can switch on Netflix or Amazon Prime, which are primarily my two favorite streaming platforms, and I can just stay there for hours and never get bored. Because I mean, like we also mentioned earlier, like we come from a time which we grew up, we didn't have streaming services. You know, you had like satellite television, you can catch something there if it was on, or you had to buy the physical copy, which was the DVD. Or if you even go back to much younger years, maybe even get the actual VHS tape. But yeah, man, so I definitely think we are much more fortunate in the times we are living now to have this crazy amounts of content which we can indulge ourselves in. And I find that awesome.
Yeah, well, I read recently that in the 1960s, the average season in a TV show had between 20 and 30 episodes, whereas nowadays, for an introductory TV show, you're looking at 10 episodes minimum. One of the main exceptions would be Peaky Blinders, which only has about 6 episodes per season, but these episodes go for an hour each, whereas your standard episode of a TV show would be anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour. And like there's just so much content to take in those 45 to 60 minutes. But it's also interesting, you can have a 2 or 3 hour movie and you wouldn't have attention span long enough to watch that movie. But if you made a TV show with 8 1-hour episodes, they'd be binged right through the night. It's almost like these TV shows and these streaming services, they're competing with your sleep. A big TV show that came out only recently is Euphoria. Came out on a streaming platform we have here called Binge, which is quite literally what people have been doing. They've binged it. It stars Zendaya, who's the star of Spider-Man. She's the star from that movie with Hugh Jackman, The Greatest Showman. So yeah, there's a few people who definitely got onto that. And
I believe even Tom Holland made a cameo now the other day in Euphoria as well, Spider-Man himself. Very popular show, yeah. I haven't watched it personally. I know like it's also like on a local streaming service here. We have Showmax. It's not like on Netflix or anything like that. But yeah, man, they do compete with your sleep, as you say.
Yes. So but like, yeah, what's the local TV show scene like there in South Africa for you guys? Like you just mentioned, you guys watch it on Showmax. So like how do people go about watching TV shows opposed to here?
Well, obviously, like you have your local one, as you have like Binge. We have, like I said, Showmax, which is just like a streaming service. A lot of local shows on there, locally produced shows, South African. Also a lot of international shows, but I still think the most popular is Netflix, which people consume. And also Amazon Prime is also very big here, something I quite enjoy. I don't think Disney Plus has made it over here yet, or Hulu. But there's quite a number of streaming services that's popular. And obviously still you have your DSTV, which is still your satellite television. But I think most people just use that for watching sport these days, because why would you want to watch anything that is like fixed, or let's say like 8 o'clock the show is on, watch one episode and then maybe next week you'll see it again. I just want to keep watching that series, man. I don't want to stop. So I definitely think like, yeah, man, that's just basically the scene we have here. I think streaming services is just the primary thing we watch on. And I don't think South Africans, but I think as people in general globally. I think that's just the way entertainment industry went.
Yeah, it's interesting how TV shows have affected your fixed paid monthly television broadcast networks. You know, how they thrive off of routine. Okay, so 7 o'clock will show this, 8 o'clock will show that, 9 o'clock will be these shows. Lawfully, we can't show, you know, a TV show or a movie that's aged 18 before 8 o'clock at night and something like that. Whereas for a TV show, yeah, just watch it whenever, man. It's on Netflix. You can watch an R18 movie at 6 a.m. if you really wanted to, because it's there.
When eating breakfast, man. That's the way
Exactly
I love
right,
it.
man.
Watching Saw while having breakfast.
Seeing people get decapitated while you're just having your Oreos and your whatever else in there. So it is interesting, but so we've just discussed like what's on your to watch list. What's like a TV show that you're convinced you're probably the only fan of? As I mentioned, like in the episode about movies, I did mention a TV show called Counterpart with J.K. Simmons, and I did mention that in this TV show, there's only 2 seasons, and it was quite critically acclaimed for the time. It got a great review on Rotten Tomatoes, but I do think that potentially I'm the only fan of that show, and I'm the only one that, if not ended up watching it, actually seeing it all the way through. So yeah, like, is there anything similar like that for you?
Okay, a particular show is an animation show, which I love on Netflix, which I started watching a couple of years back. Now waiting the new season. Is if you're aware of F is for Family.
Yeah, I've seen F is for Family. It's an animation.
Well, then no further introduction than needed, man. But I just think it's an awesome show, man. Just how life generally was in the 1970s, with that comedic value it had and the lives people had, and just like midlife crisis and all those topics being discussed. I really like that, man. And as much as I love the main character, what is his name? But I just love like his go-to phrase, "Gonna put you through that fucking wall." Or even if I start building walls today and didn't stop for the next 10 years, it still wouldn't be enough for them to fucking push you through.
Oh, that sounds exactly like Bill Burr to me, man. Frank Murphy. Has to be Frank Murphy.
Has to be Frank Murphy, man.
All right. Oh, well, that's great, man. Like, and these things stay with you. Like, I know, like, what is a TV show you have been following since day one, like since it came out? Like for me, that TV show is Big Mouth. Like I watched the first season like 3 or 4 times over. I introduced so many of my friends to Big Mouth because it essentially is child pornography, but it's an animation, so it's not child pornography. And they do say that at the end of the first season, because
they get away with it.
And they get away with it, man. Which is not why I watched it. I'm just like curious to see how the hell they can get away with the shit that they get away with.
Yeah.
So like, what's your day one?
Well, firstly, I must say, like, I'm quite a big fan of Big Mouth myself. I've always been a big follower. I know actually now there's like a spin-off series for it on Netflix. Now the name alludes. There we go. I've like watched the first 2 episodes. I'd like to continue with that. But a series definitely for me since day one was it's more than a decade almost, I think, ago, when Narcos came out, man. Like, I never missed an episode. Like, I binged Narcos so many times, and definitely when Narcos Mexico came out. Oh, dude, like it ended last year with Narcos Mexico season 3. And I was very sad. It was a very bittersweet moment for me because I've been a fan for so long, and to see it now all come to an end, this being the final season. And why it was also bittersweet for me is, you know, it might not be a popular opinion, but I didn't like the last season as much as the others. I know it felt like, for me, like the first couple of episodes, perhaps like at a very slow pace to it. It took long time to getting into the story, which is not the new normal recipe for Narcos series. Like I felt the previous seasons, like off the back first episode, that was action, story, violence, anything you could think of, man. So, but still, nonetheless, one of my all-time favorite series, and I will always treasure it very, very dearly.
So yeah, and this is the Narcos you're talking about. that has the Pedro Pascal in it, who plays, Javier Pena. Like that's the one I'm thinking of. Or Boyd Holbrook, who plays Steve Murphy. Like, yeah,
Yes.
I actually really enjoyed watching Narcos as well. I haven't seen Narcos Mexico, but yeah, like I just remember the first or the second episode in the first season. They did it actually quite well. They showed, they showed three sequential sex scenes. So they had Steve Murphy, played by Boyd Holbrook. Him and his wife moved to Colombia. They were having sex, okay, as you do. And then in the next scene, you have Pedro Pascal, playing Javier Pena, having sex with whoever he was having sex with, like big deal, this. And then like,
imagine it was like a prostitute or something.
Yeah, it was like
if I
a
remember
prostitute.
correctly. Yeah.
And then like, yeah, then the next scene they show Pablo Escobar himself having sex with his wife. And like, okay, well, like at the same time, I guess they're showing what all three characters are doing in that point in time, which is probably having sex. But
because that's just what you do in Colombia.
But no, it just blew my mind. I'm like, no way they're going to show it 3 times in a row. And they showed it 3 times in a row. And yeah, like I just thought that was different. And then the rest of the TV show, it's quite action packed. It is quite deep and emotional, like you said. On that topic of, narcos and cocaine and drugs and everything, a TV show I watched around about the same time as Big Mouth was actually El Chapo. So El Chapo is the same take as Narcos, but in Mexico, following the story of El Chapo. And the TV show is in Spanish. It's not exactly as broad audience as Narcos, which is English, and then it has Spanish as an option, and then you have subtitles with it. Like El Chapo is fully in Spanish. They have an English dubbed version, but I just opted out for that.
No, it's not as authentic.
No, definitely. The voices don't match the faces. So I would just keep the subtitles on and follow the story. But it's one of those TV shows as well. The first 2 seasons were absolutely great for laying pipe and telling the story. And then in the 3rd season, it's just anticlimactic. Like, yeah, well, they have to finish the story with the truth because, Pablo Escobar, and he died. And El Chapo, he got caught again.
So incarcerated at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they have to, show the true story. You'd want the bad guy to get away. That's how they keep you watching. But yeah, you gotta stop it somewhere. I know a lot of people are really mad with the ending of Game of Thrones. But yeah, you milk something for so long, at some point it's just gonna become anticlimactic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. No, that's a great wrap for this episode. I'm in the bloody mood to go and turn on all my streaming services right now and just binge all the way through and see how I go. I wait till I can hear colors and see shapes. Like
that sounds like a mighty fine idea, man. Let's get that blue light eye poisoning, bro.
Man. Get on the binge and the show, Mac. Well, I'll see you.
As always, absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yep.
Till the next one.
See you in the next episode, man.
Adios.